Okay, so this is 13 of the review. The first thing we're going to do is, well, after reading the question, of course, we're going to open up our data into StatCrunch. Okay, and then it wants us to find the least squares regression line. And so something that people tend to remember learning in high school, and I feel like there's memes about it or something, but this equation y equals mx plus b, you're probably somewhat familiar with it. That is what the least squares regression line is. So we have all of this data, and we're going to compute it in StatCrunch, and it's going to give us a line that is the best fit line also, or it shows the correlation, how close. So you're just going to draw a line right down the middle of your plotted data points, and that would be your least squares regression line. And it shows the average values of the data, and it helps you predict. And so this is the setup, this y, and then that's the m, x plus the b, which is the y-intercept. And so I'm going to go back to StatCrunch, our data that we have, and we're going to go to stat, and then regression simple linear. Our x variable is the explanatory variable, or the one that we have control of. In this case, we have control. We're going to measure how many colas per week affect the y. So yeah, so we just need to fill in those and click compute, leave everything else the same. And this is what we want. So going back to this, slope is m, so I'm going to do y equals plus b. So our slope is where the estimate is. I should have given myself more room. And then our b is the intercept estimate right there. Okay. And so we'll put that into this equation. And 0.899. Okay, so now we are going to interpret the slope. So this one right here, I'm going to write this a little bit better for our purposes. Okay, sorry about that. So now we're interpreting the slope, which is this number right here, this first number. And so when we inputted this into StatCrunch, we put x as the colas per week, because that's the thing that we have control over, and then the result of that x is the y, right? And so since we're timesing our slope by our x, that means that for every increase of x, we times our slope by that increase. So if there's 3 x's, then we times our slope by 3. So for every colas consumed per week, the bone density decreases by 0.027. You don't put the negative because it already says decrease. Now we're interpreting the y-intercept, which is this number right here. And so to interpret the y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x. So if we plug in 0 for x, that means 0 times anything is just 0, right? And so then this is what we're left with is our y-intercept. So that means that if x is at 0, that's what our y-intercept is. It's our starting point. So for 0 colas consumed in a week, the bone density is predicted to be 0.899. Now we're going to predict someone who consumes 4 colas per week. So we're going to plug in 4 where our x is. And we're just going to do that equation. Remember, order of operations, you always times first. Oh, I didn't like that. So 4 times negative 0.027. And then we're going to add this right there. And that's the number we get for our bone density. And this is the average. This is what our line says it should be. But then it says that someone who did consume the 4 colas a week, which we just plugged in, has a bone density of 0.781. And then is this one below or above average? So this is our average that we just found. And so this is a little bit less than. So it's below the average of 0.791. Okay, would you recommend using the model? So what we found, this line that we found, of someone who consumes 2 colas per day. So what x is number of colas per week, right? And so for that one equation, we did 4 colas per week. But someone who consumes 2 colas per day, that means we have to convert it into weeks. That's 14 colas per week, right? Because there's 7 days in a week, and 2 a day is 14. And so if we look at our data, the highest number of colas per week that we gathered information from is 8. And 14 is almost twice as much as 8, right? And so it is way out of the scope of the model. So we have no idea we can't use this line to go up that high because it's not in within our data points. And so we're going to say no. It's not that it's not possible. You can totally drink 2 colas a week. It's outside of the scope of the model. So consuming 14, that's 2 colas per day in a week, is outside of the model. All right.